on blast.
We're having late night snacks. We're wearing matching hoodies. This is perhaps the most adorable start to You Killed It. I'm John Chidley Hill.
And I am Sheldon Alexander. This, I feel like, is going to be a giggly. Did I really just say that? Giggly podcast?
Yeah.
A laughter-filled podcast. I think that sounds a bit more mature than giggly podcast. But you know what I'm saying? The sillies are out for sure. We had a long talk before we hit record. Got a lot of stuff out. Lots of stuff going on, you know? And so I think we're ready to get to the silliness, the tomfoolery, or let's just say it straight up, the fuckery that is the challenge at times.
That's right. We want to start off with replying to some tweets because, frankly, I don't know how we're going to fit them into the actual conversation about this week's episode of the challenge, Double Agents. So first of all, I want to give a shout out to Mauricio, who knows exactly what I was talking about when it comes to Chaos Comics and Lady Death. He didn't at you on it, Sheldon, but I'll forward you the photo over Twitter right now because I want the real-time reacts from Sheldon. So I'm sending it to his Twitter account, folks. Buying myself a little time. Mauricio says, there was Lady Death from Chaos Comics, but I don't remember Lady Vengeance. Keep up the good work. I'm a You Killed It fan. Best podcast for the challenge. Thank you, Mauricio. Sheldon, what do you think of Lady Death?
I mean, that's an interesting outfit. I wonder where one shops to get an outfit like that. Like what area of the department store is that outfit in?
Let's just say it's not very practical for everyday wear. I think that's probably the best way to describe it. I think that's fair.
That is fair. That is a fair assessment. A very fair assessment.
Lucas Wyatt says, or wants to know, will we be recording podcasts for the OG Challenge spinoff when it airs?
I have no idea what you're talking about. What's the OG Challenge spinoff? I don't know what that is.
Bless your heart, Sheldon. I don't know how you missed this, but there's going to be a spinoff of the challenge, which is just like OG people like Mark Long and Derek K and like all the old heads, like the 30s and over set.
I have so many questions, but first off, why?
Mark Long had like a Twitter campaign.
Oh, I do remember this going around on Twitter. So hold on, MTV actually greenlit this project?
Yeah, I believe it's filming right now, or they were in like COVID protocols to like get people bubbled. So
like bananas on it or no?
No, okay. I saw a like potential cast list and it's like, yeah, it's from like, it's got like, I can't remember. It's certainly Mark Long and Derek. I feel like maybe Brad. I could look it up, but I don't want to. But it's like that vintage, you know, like no one, I would say it's generally going to be people, cast members that are pre-cutthroat sort of as a timeline.
Okay.
I gotta say, what I would like to see is people who were on the challenge that went on to greater fame. So like Theo Von, Christina P, The Miz, Caramo, like get those four because they all went on to bigger things, and you know, see how they do, see if they can hang.
I'll have to do more of a deep dive to see how much this piques my interest in terms of, because if this is like the off-season challenge in between like real challenge seasons, I don't know. I'm going to have to see who's on the list here and see how much interest this garners, or, you know, we'll let the people decide. If the people are really interested in it, we'll kind of see how that rocks as well. But I don't know. I can't say we're fully committed as of yet. Depends on when it airs, depends on what's going on, depends on who's on the show. And because if you're telling me it's going to be like the bootleg champs versus stars, but just with old heads, like, I don't think I want to watch that.
My concern is like if they run it at the same time as a regular season
Oh, well,
of
then
the
definitely
challenge,
not.
yeah, that would be very difficult for us. So I looked up the list. Would you like to
Okay,
hear it?
sure. We're here.
Uh, so, according to Vevmo, spoilers. Um, According to this, they left on January 22nd. The working name is We Want OGs. Uh, this says no one is 100% confirmed until the cameras are rolling on location. People can get dropped, decline, and or become alternates, but they say the girls are Anissa, Arissa Hill from Las Vegas 2002, Katie Doyle,
Okay.
Kellyanne, Ruthie, Trishelle, Ace from the Real World Paris, so that's CT season, Brad,
Mhm.
Derek, Eric, Big Easy, Mark Long, Nehemiah, Cyrus, Yes Duffy from Road Rules Semester at Sea, and then some that are up in the air. I mean, these are long lists, so I'm skeptical. But Beth, Casey, Coral, Gisela Delgado from Road Rules: The Quest. I'm not familiar. John A. Uh, Kendall Shepard, Siobhan Torres, Sophia. I don't really know her. Svetlana, Tina, Tori. So potentially Brad and Tori on the same season. Veronica, and potential guys, Abram, Adam Larson from Road Rules: The Quest. I was not a big Road Rules guy,
Neither
so
was I.
Alton, Blair, again from Road Rules: The Quest, CJ, Kohada, CT, Danny, Danny Jameson, who's from Real World Austin, and then Danny Roberts, who's from Real World New Orleans, Darrell Dunbar, Eric Nyes from the Real World New York 1992, the
Dude,
original
that's a lot
season.
of people.
Yeah. Isaac, Johnny Bananas, John Brennan from Real World Los Angeles, Karamo, Landon, who we have not seen since Fresh Meat 2, my favorite season, MJ, Ryan from the Challenge Fresh Meat, Stephen Hill, who was on Real World Las Vegas 2002, Timmy, and Wes.
Okay. I mean, that list has to be dwindled just a bit, but
Yeah,
there's a lot of
that can't
names
be the
there.
real
There's a lot of
list.
interesting names there. Um, yeah, I mean, again, we'll see. Depends on timing, depends on setup. Like, is this a real challenge season in terms of them like going somewhere, or is it just like, we're posted up in a hotel to do challenges in a gym or whatever, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it's interesting. It's interesting. I can't really say that like off the premise alone, I'm not really that into it, but I could be convinced. I could be persuaded.
Rochella Valdez points out to us that there's a Burger King across from the Eden Center on the Young side.
I think I
And
said that.
yes, you did.
I
I
said
didn't.
something about Young Street. I'm pretty sure there's one on Young Street. I think I said that.
And
Young, like downtown.
she also said that if she won Whoppers for life, she'd go and give them to the homeless because she is a better person than either of us.
That's a great, great, great idea.
Way better than anything you and I said last week. So hats
Yeah.
off.
Yeah.
And then finally, this past weekend, I watched Bad Boys 2 for the first time ever. And
Okay.
I tweeted that I was watching it for the first time ever. I was excited to find out why that movie had to be 2.5 hours long. And a
Okay.
lot of our listeners, specifically Lawrence Thomas and Jordan Reginato, had wanted to know what I thought about it. And before I give like a 30-second review, Sheldon, have you ever watched Bad Boys 2?
Oh yeah, for sure. If I'm not mistaken, I might have seen it in theaters.
Okay.
And if I'm not, Was it Bad Boys 2? I think it was. So I think it was Bad Boys 2, and I'm only confident because I don't go to the movie theaters that often. That's just not my swag, right? But Bad Boys 2, I remember going with a group of friends. And this will only be appreciated really to people who kind of have an idea of Toronto. Because I went to see it in a movie theater in Scarborough, right?
Okay.
And so let's just say Scarborough's a very diverse part of Toronto, right?
Yep.
There's a lot of minority people, but there's all just a diverse part of the city. So we go to the movie theater to watch it. And if I'm not mistaken, the preview for the movie, the preview of Bad Boys was for, I have no idea what this movie was called, but it stars Idris Alba. And Idris Alba is, he's like working in an office, and then his secretary is, what's her name? I want to say Ali Larder. But I'm not sure, and I really
I
want to look it
know
up to make sure
I
I get
know
it
what
right.
movie you're talking about
So
for sure.
no, so the thing is, they're flirting. So picture us, we're in this movie theater, and I say where it is in Scarborough because it tells you like what most of the audience is. Let's say in this crowd watching the movie. So Idris Alba and his secretary are flirting, and it's a trailer, right? So things are moving quickly. You could tell, oh, damn, my guy's getting it on with his secretary. Okay. And then it cuts to a scene where Ali Larder is knocking on the door of Idris Alba's house. And then so the door opens and it's Beyonce. And I've never heard a movie theater all at the exact same time go because everyone was like, he's cheating on Beyonce. What? And you're just hearing people like cussing in the audience. It was honestly the funniest shit ever because people were so irate that Idris Alba's character would be cheating on Beyonce with his secretary. I was laughing. I've never laughed so hard at a preview. Like that shit would be a Chappelle Show skit, but it happened in real life. So yes, I did see Bad Boys 2 in a roundabout way, as most of my stories are on this podcast. In a roundabout way, yes, I have seen Bad Boys 2.
Uh, so one thing I have to say about Bad Boys 2 is although I did not see it in theaters, I bought the soundtrack
Okay.
when it came out because it is one of the best soundtracks of all time.
Okay.
Headlined,
I didn't
in
see
my
this.
opinion, by my favorite Jay-Z song ever,
Oh, yes.
La La La, Excuse
Yeah.
Me Again,
Yes.
which for those
Great
of
track.
you who want to do like a deep dive, I'm pretty sure it's the first appearance of Kanye West in a music video. He's in the background of a party
Oh.
scene because I think it's a Kanye
Hmm.
beat. It might not be, but he's certainly in the music video.
Hmm. Interesting. I'm
Um,
not sure, but that's an interesting little tidbit there.
but it is just a fire song. Like, go out of your way to look it up. It is a
There
killer beat.
was
It's some of Jay Z's best lyrics.
We haven't even talked really about this episode of the challenge yet, but I'm going for my second tangent because the other part of that music video is there's a part in the song where Jay-Z says, um, he says, run up on me at the light, you can lose your life. And I'll never make the news again. My man will shoot you. So he's talking about how like he got brought up on charges for getting in a fight in a club with whoever, right? Which is a whole other story for another day. But in the video, he says, I'll never make the news again. My man will shoot you. And Beanie Siegel, like in the music video, pops in, like pushes Jay-Z out of the way and points to himself saying, I'ma shoot you. Right? Which is just like in terms of filmmaking and content creation, just an incredible moment, right? But the reason I bring it up is because Beanie Siegel, I remember when he got brought up on charges, they tried to use that against him in court to say that he is a violent man and obviously like his lawyer was just good enough to be like, come on, it's a music video and they're not being serious and blah blah blah, creative license, blah 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 blah. But I just found that really funny because I mean, let's just say history would tell us that Beanie Siegel would do that. But I just found it funny that they tried to use that music video against him to show that he would be prone to violence. And
I
I don't
mean,
know what that has to do with the challenge, but hey, we're here now. We're here
Guys,
now.
hold on. We're like 2 minutes away from talking about the challenge. My favorite lyric in that song is, and I'm the franchise like the Houston Rockets, Yao Ming.
Yes.
Always cracks me up.
The Yao Ming blended in with Na Mean, like just how he blended that in perfectly. The Yao Ming is it's so much so to this day, I will be talking to people, and when I'm supposed to say, you know what I mean, I'll say Yao Ming, and like and some people will get it. Well, if you've known me for long enough, you'll get it. But if you're just listening, like sometimes I'll just yell it out in the newsroom at work. People are like, "Did you just say Yao Ming?" I'm like, "Never mind. You're too young. You're too young."
That soundtrack also featured the debut single from the band, from making the band two,
Wow.
with all due respect to the challenge, the greatest reality TV show of all time.
I mean, it is pretty good. It is really good.
Uh,
I
as
can't deny that.
as for the movie itself, it did not have to be 2.5 hours long. It could have
Oh,
easily been maybe 45 minutes. There was a lot of filler in that movie. There were some admittedly great car chase scenes.
yeah.
There was some great scenes like when Will Smith and Martin Lawrence, Mike and Marcus, excuse me, in character, uh,
Yeah.
infiltrated the Ku Klux Klan rally as part of a drug bust. That was great.
And
And
when I'm not gonna say it,
obviously,
but it's okay. My
the
favorite line in that entire movie when he takes off the KKK garb with the guns, and Martin's like, "Oopsie daisy, it's the Negras." That
but
might be my favorite line from that whole movie because it's so good. Oh,
the very best scene, and listeners, I beg of you, just Google Bad Boys 2 Reggie, because there's a scene where Marcus's daughter, who's 15, is going on her first ever date with a young man named Reggie, and Marcus and Mike decide to give him the gears, and it is hilarious and by far the best scene in the movie, like
yeah,
far and away.
yeah,
Dare I
yeah,
say the best scene in the franchise?
yeah.
It's
No,
fantastic.
it is quite good. And while you were talking, I did look up to make sure that it was Ali Larder
And
was the
obsessed.
the actress's name in Obsessed. Yes. I did look that up to make sure that I was correct because if you obviously know who Ali Larder is, you understand why the room of people watching this thing was so up in arms over cheating on Beyonce with Ali Larder. Like it was just the funniest thing ever that I wish was a Chappelle Show skit because you couldn't even write that. You couldn't write it.
And then
The gasp.
and then
But yeah.
life imitated art. But we don't have to get into all of that.
Ooh.
What we should get into 18 minutes into this podcast. This has to be a distracted record for us, Sheldon.
There's someone listening right now that's just like, wait, am I listening to the right podcast right now? And there's going to be other people listening that are like, actually, I think this is great when you guys are just talking about nonsense. So, hey, let us know which side of the fence y'all are on, if we should just shut up and get to it every week or not. Either way, we're going to do whatever we want to do, anyways. But it'd be funny to hear the feedback.
What's funny is last week's episode was our briefest episode in some time because a
Yeah,
little behind the scenes, you were at work, so we had to
correct.
we had
Yeah,
to bang that out on your lunch break.
yeah.
And tonight we're definitely just goofing around.
Mhm.
Do you know who else was goofing around though?
Hey,
Casey, Fessy, and Josh are very impressed with themselves now that three of the four members of the Big Brother Alliance have golden skulls.
yeah. I mean, they're feeling themselves. They're feeling good. And I guess they should be, right? They're in a very good position. They've been laying low for a while, right? Ever since the very beginning when Fessy threw in Nelson. Ever since then, he's been laying low. Casey is always laying low. And Josh is Josh. So, I mean, the fact that they were able to just get him a skull, cool. But I got a lot to say about Josh towards the end of this. So we'll
Yeah,
we'll get there. But
you and me both.
they come in feeling themselves, which is cool. Amber, M, and Corey are definitely the cursed team, and we kind of knew that. But where this episode really starts, I thought, was CT and Devin talking game about how they want to put Josh into the elimination so someone else can get his skull. And I found that interesting because they were talking about it from the guy's perspective, but then quickly it shifts to everyone realizing this is probably a female elimination, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what did you make of just that whole first scene where you're getting CT and Devin kind of laying out their plans going forward?
I was surprised that Devin was so upfront about helping out CT. I know
Okay.
Devin and CT are friends. I mean, as a viewer, I'm rooting for CT.
Mhm.
But to me, if you're Devin, the move is when it's a guy's elimination, if you can make it happen, you put Josh in against Fessy.
Yeah.
Like, to me, that's the slam dunk move,
Mhm.
right? Like, because then you're guaranteed to take someone out from Big Brother. You're guaranteed that Josh is going to have an emotional meltdown,
Yeah.
right? Like, and
Oh,
also, again, like I love CT. I want, as me, John Chidley Hill, as the viewer, I want CT in the finals. As Devin, I would not want to see CT in the finals. Like as much as they're friends, as much as they like each other, CT is arguably the most complete of the male players. He's
yeah.
certainly one of the most experienced. You do not want him in a final. He can eat anything. He has stamina. He is motivated. He is bigger and stronger and faster than Devin. And
So,
like, sorry, go ahead.
no, no, no. I was just gonna say a couple things though. I think Devin really what he's doing here is he's trying to take the heat off himself with
Yeah, and
CT,
he said that in
right?
confessional.
Yeah, because like CT, definitely those guys hunting for skulls still. You're either going to Devin or Josh, right? So
Yeah.
either one you're going at. So this is kind of the game that Devin's playing as well. And it's a game that Devin's playing, right? It's an interesting game, but not quite as interesting as the game being played by Fessy and Gabby. So I'm watching this go down, and I'm gonna be honest, okay? I'm not normally this upfront. Normally, I'll put in some sneak comments, shout out to Haley, shout out
Shout out
to
to
Amber
Haley.
B, you know what I mean? All that stuff. There were times during this season of the challenge where like Gabby would be talking and I like don't even know what she's saying because I'm just like I have to catch myself. So I get where Fessy is coming from in this mode. But the other part that makes it, and don't worry, there's a better compliment coming here than like she's just dope looking. The part that makes it even better to me is I like how she played this game with Fessy, right? I like how she was playing the long game with Fessy and not just like, making him work for it, right? I like that she was making him like not because you could tell she's not really buying Fessy's whole game about, oh, I'm shy, oh, I'm this, oh, I'm that. The reality is she knows and he knows he just normally doesn't have to work that hard, right? Like, let's keep it a buck. She knows it, he knows it. So she's not really buying the game. But at the same time, she was still playing her own game and seeing how long he was going to continue chasing. And he has continued chasing. And I can't say that I'm mad about him. I'm I'm mad about him. Can't say that I'm mad about it for him. But here's my question to you.
Okay.
Are you a little worried if you're in the Big Brother alliance, right? Or if you're just someone rooting for Fessy, that he admits he doesn't care about anything other than winning, but then in the same breath says he's trying to mix business and pleasure. Talked about how he wanted to be, he wants Gabby to switch partners and he wants to be partners with her, but also says he wants to mix business with pleasure and that he wants to rub it in Devin's face. I was like, see, you can't do all of those things, bro. Can't. I don't think you can. That's a tough game to play.
I think that if you are a member of the Big Brother Alliance, if you're a fan of the Big Brother Alliance, if you're a fan of Fessy, you know in your heart of hearts that the Big Brother Alliance isn't all about winning. If they were all about winning, they would not have Josh on their team.
That is fair.
And it's not like Fessy has played the most even keeled game either.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I don't think any of this is surprising. I have to say, very sick of hearing Fessy running that. I'm shy. Oh, I'm really shy.
People
People
think
think
I'm
I'm,
cocky, but I'm not really cocky. I'm just shy.
I mean, I already deconstructed this a few weeks ago when he was trying to run this game on Corey. But, like, come on, man. And, like, listen, you're right. Gabby is a very attractive young woman. And you know what? Fessy is a very handsome young man. I understand why they're attracted to each other. What I don't understand is when Gabby says that talent and ability is sexy. If that's the case, why is she interested in Fessy? Because he's neither talented nor able. What he is big, and I will say he is handsome,
Mhm.
but he's not out there crushing it on puzzles. You know, he's not exactly a rocket scientist. He is not, you know, a concert violinist. He is a big sort of dumb dude. He is the second stupidest guy in his alliance.
Well,
Like not he's not that impressive a human being in terms of talent and ability.
so the part that's interesting to me, right, is, and I'll bring this up a little later, but I'm very much jaded by Fessy's game potential because of his appearance on Big Brother. And I bring this up all the time, just like I bring up Josh, just to give people who are fans of the challenge who might not be familiar with their work on Big Brother. Can't say this enough. Fessy might have been the worst Big Brother player in the history of the game. And I know that sounds like a stretch, but when I tell you that he kept winning the daily challenges, meaning he or someone in his alliance kept winning the daily challenges, right? Meaning you have the power in the house. And yet every single week, someone from his own alliance kept getting sent home, meaning you didn't have the votes, but you thought that you had the votes, and you couldn't figure out who was lying to you each and every single week, even though it was so obvious for everyone else to see, until one by one, people from his own alliance kept getting picked off, even though he was in power and their side of the alliance was in power. And this isn't just me, hating on Fessy or hating on his alliance, because in one of the most real scenes, him and his then girlfriend, Haley, shout out to Haley, are lying in bed when they realize that one of them is going home that week. And they're like, we're really bad at this game, aren't we? They're like, how did we not know? Like, how can we not figure out who's sending ourselves home? Like, how can we keep losing people when we're in power? Like, we must really be bad at this game. And it's like, yes, you are. So I bring that up, and that's why I'm always coming at Fessy from a different angle, because I'm coming at it from that context. He's a horrible gameplay player, right? And so again, throwing in Nelson super early, there's no need to do that, right? Absolutely none. So the other part of it is we'll see it later when they're talking about numbers. And Fessy's like, oh, we got the numbers. We got numbers in our Big Brother alliance. We got numbers outside our alliance. And I'm like, where have I heard him say that before? Like, that sounds very familiar before. Like, I've heard Fessy say that. So I don't really know if that's true. Like, it could be true, but I can't trust that for being true. So yeah, I'm interested to see how this Fessy Gabby thing plays out. But I'll be honest, I thought that it would have played out differently in this episode alone, and it really didn't.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a fair point. I was a little surprised with that twist.
I was gonna say this though, something that we did see play out, and I really don't want to talk about it a lot because I don't understand it. But the Nam and Lolo thing,
Oh, I want to talk about this a lot. So
really, I am so
I'm so
confused
sorry.
by it because I don't understand what they're even arguing about. Like, it seems so stupid. And they're arguing back and forth about them not being on the same page, and Lolo wants to volunteer to go in, Nam doesn't want to go in. I don't even I don't get why this is such an argument. I don't get why, like, is this just as simple as, it's a little kid crush that they have on each other and they don't know how to act around each other, so they just diss each other? Like, I really don't understand what was going on and why they were so mad and arguing with each other. I don't get it.
every this is our 10th season that we have done recaps for. I don't know if you appreciate that.
Is that for
We've
real? I didn't know that.
we've done 7 regular seasons and then 3 champs versus seasons.
Yeah.
And every season there's a certain point where I just become annoyed with everyone. And I think it's partly because they've been so isolated for so long, they're just making like progressively stupider decisions
Okay.
and they make less and less sense. And some of them start to come apart at the seams mentally from the isolation, which, hey, I think after nearly a year of this pandemic, I think we all have some sympathy for. This is the episode of Double Agents where I turn the corner and I start to get annoyed with everyone. And it really starts with this scene with Nam and Lolo. I mean, you said it. I don't even know what they're arguing about. And like, they have another argument later on in the episode that we can just like combine the two for our discussion right now. I don't know what Lolo's upset about. She keeps saying that there's no communication between them, that there's miscommunication. She says in this first argument or this first discussion, it's always what Nam wants. My guy almost won the daily competition for her twice, right? Like almost single handedly. There was the one where it came down to him and Jay holding their partners over the edge after like pulling that rope, and he was right in there. And then last week, excuse me, 2 weeks ago, when he got
Him
mauled
and
by
CT.
CT, but he did like he's holding up his end of the bargain, and like okay, he's like a quieter dude, but that's not that bad. Like it's amazing to see the lack of awareness of Lolo. And I put down in my notes when they were arguing later on in the episode, like, oh yeah, this is the Lolo bullshit that we had when she was on Champs versus Stars. Like this
Right.
is who she is. Right? And like again, in the second argument that they have, she talks about how she always has a coach to mediate when there's team problems. Sheldon, you and I have played on a lot of sports teams. How often did the coach have to mediate problems between players on the teams that you've been on?
But I mean, not often. But like here's the thing I don't get. What are the problems that need to be mediated here?
She can't even say what they are.
None of it makes sense to me. It was annoying.
I want her to leave our quiet German king alone. He just wants to wear his tight white t-shirt and suspenders like he's an extra on Sprockets. Just let him do his thing. He's going to show up. You can yell at him. He'll be quiet about it, and life goes on. Like I don't. That's one of the things I don't understand what she wants from him. In the second argument, which we won't have to get into, but like, and he even says this. He's like, I don't understand what you want. Like, do you want me to like shout back at you? Like, what?
I think she does.
That's so weird.
Yeah, I mean, I think ultimately she's just frustrated because she can't get her way into getting into the elimination. And so she just needs someone to focus her anger at. And that happens to be Nam, unfortunately for him, which isn't fair, but
Yeah,
it's kind of just what it is.
she also knows that no one is going to put her into an elimination. No one's going to put her into the
Exactly.
crater. She has to win her way in. But frankly, she has not done well in the daily competitions. Like
Totally right.
she hasn't earned it. Like she has not been impressive at all in those. So I will say,
I have no
if
time for her, and I'm gonna. Sorry, I completely just interrupted you as you
no,
were
go
like,
ahead. No,
"I
no,
will say." You were like, "I will say," and then I just jumped in. I'm like, "I'm sorry." Continue. I just pulled a Lolo.
no.
My bad.
I will say that if she likes a teammate that yells back at her, she and Kelly Humphreys are going to absolutely crush it in the bobsled for the Americans.
Wow. Wow. Okay. See what you did there. I see what you
Just
did there.
just some bobsled hot takes. You know you're listening to a Canadian podcast when
Where else are you getting bobsled bobsleigh hot takes, reviews of the challenge, reviews of Bad Boys 2, and Obsessed, while also learning more about the city or town or the what is Scarborough? Is Scarborough a city? No, it's a township.
It's a
What is
borough.
a borough? Obviously, I'm an idiot. That was one of the dumbest things I've ever said on this podcast. Wow. Anyways,
No
let's move
comment.
on. What is wrong with me right now? People are gonna be like, "Yo, have you been drinking or something?" Like, what's? I think I'm overtired. That's really what it is. Anyways, someone else who clearly wasn't thinking, much like myself, Amber B. Amber B upset she didn't get her skull and she's regretting her decision, and she should be. But either way, let's get to the actual challenge, right? Don't want to spend time on Amber B. Who cares, right?
No.
Or we'll get there anyways. So, Mission Black Sand Op. Is that what this
Yep.
is? So there's 100 torches, and there's a puzzle piece buried at every torch. And you have to search with your partner to find 10 of the puzzle pieces that match the color of your helmet. And when you find those puzzle pieces, you bring them back to your spot, and then you have to build a totem. You may find another team's totem or another team's puzzle piece, and you can either help them or bury it deeper to hurt them. Dun dun dun. I guess I'll ask, what did you make of this challenge? Did you like this challenge? Did you not like it? What'd you think?
I liked this challenge, and it was the sort of competition that I wish like the Wesses, the Johnnies, the Smashleys of this world were competing in, because I thought people used really bad strategy. Like there's a lot of things where people were doing things where I'm like, why would you do that? Like off the top, to me, the first thing you have to do is start in the first row and work your way forward. Like Cam and Kyle like ran all the way to the other end. The thing that I would be most worried about is digging in the same spot twice, like getting confused as to where you've been. So to me, you start at the first row and then like be systematic about it is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
The other thing is obviously, and we see this, have a deal with a friendly team. So we see Leroy and Casey helping Josh and Nani. We see both those teams working against Gabby and Devin. Gabby and Devin working against those teams. Cam and Kyle are helping Devin and Gabby. I guess Kyle overruled Cam since Leroy is working against Devin and Gabby.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe sometimes this happens where there's like sort of like rules that they don't explain to the viewer that they explain to the competitors. Because one thing I didn't understand is, so you find a piece and then you have to run and put it on your platform. Do you think they have to stick together? Because to me, the thing that you do is one person goes and puts it on the platform, the other person moves on to the next hole. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. That's one thing I thought about too that I found interesting. And maybe they did have to stay together. You're totally right. That might have been one of the things they said that they didn't tell us, but you're totally right, because that didn't really make sense to me either.
There's one other.
The other part is I would have split up with my partner. Why would I need to be with my partner? We could start at opposite ends and be searching, right? So I'd assume totally you have to stay together.
I also would assemble it as I go. You know what I mean? Like every time you get a piece, if it's obvious that two pieces are connected, and some of them were kind of obvious, like start stacking it.
Yeah, I think though that it was so far away to actually be able to see what the design was. And I think that some of the pieces were similar enough that you wouldn't have been able to do it without getting a good look at it, which I mean, Nani and Josh tried to do at first and that didn't work. But sticking with Nani and Josh for a sec, right? And this is a part where I wonder how much of the edit showed us the reality in terms of if those guys were all working together, shouldn't they all have been done a lot sooner? Like not the actual like solving of the puzzle. I just mean getting the 10 pieces. Because if we get 3 teams together, or if we're smart, we get 4 teams together and we start at each corner and we just try to find each other's colors, Like, shouldn't we be a lot faster than the other people? Like, that part kind of made no sense to me. I thought that having the alliance or working with the group would definitely help you find your pieces faster than the other people. And especially if everyone's going against Devin and Gabby, they can't come close to the rest of you working together, because you should be working together to get your pieces and to hide theirs. So yeah, that's where you're totally right about, Johnny Bananas, Wes, those guys would have had a better strategy for sure. I think I totally agree with you there.
Yeah, we needed some galaxy brains on this one. Like, I think they made it harder than they being the contestants, the cast members, made it harder than it needed to be. Devin and Gabby, though, did something really smart, which is just like should be standard practice in competitions like this, but no one else thought of it. Was Devin memorized 5 of the pieces, Gabby memorized 5 of the pieces, and then they basically just did 2 puzzles separately, which is
Yeah.
brilliant because not only do you have to memorize less, but you're not getting in each other's way, right? Like there's no squabbling over which piece goes where because you're doing your own thing, and then like it's obvious because it had sort of a dome. It was pretty phallic, if we're being honest. They could like which half is the top, which half is the bottom. You put the bottom on the pole, you put the top on, and you're done. Like Bob's your
Yeah.
uncle. Pretty easy.
No, I totally hear you, and I agree with that. I think too the funny part for me was Josh and Nani got their puzzle pieces first, and I legitimately wrote down, but they both suck at puzzles, so I know they won't win. I mean, and then when their strategy was Nani trying to see if she could see what the puzzle was from a distance, instead of just taking the, I don't know, 30 seconds to go over and actually make sure you can see what the puzzle says, instead of doing it way later on after everyone else just caught up. It's
I
just,
will I will say something for this competition because that moment you just described gave me valuable insight into Josh as a human being. So I've noticed, and maybe you've noticed, we haven't really talked about this, but Josh tends to like really squint. Like he has this really weird face he makes because he's clearly a mouth breather and he has like this sort of slack jawed look, but he really squints hard. And in this competition, Nani says that she can see the like complete the answer key to the totem. He says, but I can't see that far. And it made me realize my guy isn't squinting because he's mean mugging all the time. It's because he can't see. He needs glasses. Josh needs glasses. That's the news, right? Like that's why he's always making weird faces when he's like up on the in the crater when he's up on with like everyone like looking down. He's always like looking real hard at people.
yeah.
It's not because he's trying to look tough. It's because he can't see shit. Get some contact lenses, brother. Like, come on.
Well played. Well played. I think for me, it was funny to see how it all played out, because obviously everyone caught up as predicted, right?
Yeah.
Everyone caught up, but then CT and Big T were right there ready to win.
Yeah, they
And
completed it first, but got it wrong.
yeah, they just made one little mistake. And as they were adjusting, it gave Gabby and Devin the chance to catch up and win. And I thought that was super interesting because I wonder how that flips things if it's CT and Big T going in. Like that flips things as well. So I would have been interested to see how that plays out. But with Gabby and Devin winning, no matter what they chose, I knew it was going to be some level of fuckery.
Yeah.
Because I knew that she didn't really want to go in. And I knew that she wasn't going to be able to convince Devin to put themselves in. And this was a weird one because I understood both of their arguments. You know what I'm saying? I understand. And there's a bunch of conversations going back and forth, right? There's a bunch of conversations going back and forth, but really the crux of it all is Devin and Gabby trying to figure out what they want to do, because Gabby, or I guess we can go through it and then get to it when they actually make the decision. But
Well,
you know what I'm
I
saying?
mean,
Like,
we can skip big parts. There's just a couple things I have to point out. The first is that Fessy and Josh and Leroy's present, but it's really a conversation between Fessy and Josh, where Josh, of course, is like, "That's it. I'm going in. I'm going in." And Fessy's like, "Nah, you're not going in. I'm not going in. There's no way." And then Fessy says the Big Brother Alliance has all the power, which is literally untrue. Like, by definition, Devin and Gabby have some power, right?
True.
And then Devin is feeling himself. He says in confessional, "I love chaos, big chaos guy." He says he's going to make everyone vote the way he wants. It's really gone to his head. Everyone knows I'm a big Devin fan. I thought what he was saying and doing was funny, but it was also fucking up his game.
Horrible gameplay.
Horrible gameplay. And, he's not just drunk on power. Everyone's literally drunk because they go to the liquor dome. And, he and Josh almost get into another argument, but Devin ends up, I guess, leaving and going to bed. But things get
Big
heated.
T stops it.
Yeah, Big T. Shout out to Big T. Gabby gets really heated with Devin, saying that she wants to go in. She believes it's a woman's elimination, but he won't listen. It's the Devin show. Mm-hmm. One thing I have to point out, though, just because, the lack of, as I said, I'm at the point of the season where everyone's annoying me. The next day, Devin's chatting. Oh, no, sorry. This is when they're still drunk. Devin's chatting with Kyle and Cam about his plans, about how he's going to run the house, all this. And in confessional, Cam says that when Devin is in control, he's got revenge on his mind. But if she were in charge, she would use the power to smooth things over. See, Sheldon, you're nodding.
Killer Cam. Queen Cam. I was going to say,
Cam is also motivated by vengeance. Cam is still mad at CT for picking Ashley over her.
Cam got Teresa out of the house too.
I agree with Cam, but she is a hypocrite, is all I'm trying to say.
Which is fair. Totally true, right? Like, Cam's sole purpose was to get Teresa out because Teresa tried to blindside her when really Teresa just helped her get a skull, right? So you are totally correct. Here's what I'll say about Cam and Leroy at this point and how I think they're playing well. I think the reason why Fessy thinks they have the power is they think that Cam and Leroy are on their side, which they are kind of. They are if it's convenient. And I think that's kind of the beauty of what Cam and Leroy have done this season is they haven't had to really choose a side. When in reality, if you look at how the house breaks down and who the strongest people are, even though Leroy is paired with Casey, which was a smart move to have, because if you think about it, right? Leroy being paired with Casey and then Cam being paired with Kyle, that's basically covering off three sides of the house.
Yeah.
So that gameplay right there has made them not have a target on their back. There's always been someone, for the most part, who has a bigger target on their back. They went in and got their skulls already. And now they're sort of just sitting back, and picking off Teresa was picking off a strong player that Cam wouldn't have to go against in the elimination. And if you think about it from the guy's perspective, on the guy's side, nobody's going to try to take a skull from Leroy at this point. And they're keeping out CT. They're keeping out Nam. Like, Cam and Leroy are in a pretty good spot right now, and I look at how this game's played. But to your point, you are correct. She is a hypocrite for saying that about Devin. But I want to point out something here, too, because Devin and Gabby, right? Gabby is fired up. She's coming at Devin hard. And I appreciate it, too. Calling him out, calling him on his bullshit, that, like, he's just running the Devin show. And again, I can understand both of their arguments. Gabby should want to go down. Of course she should want to go down and get her skull because there's only 2 skulls left. So she should have a say in what's going on. But on the flip side, if the roles were reversed, obviously Devin doesn't want to go in. Why would you want to risk having to go in and take part in another elimination when you don't have to? So obviously I get the arguments from both sides. My issue here, though, is Devin's argument, the way that he was going about his argument was just way wrong. So I was on team Gabby in this argument just because the way that Devin was going about it, he wasn't even citing gameplay. If he just cited the gameplay of, that's a lot to ask of me to risk having to go in again just because of maybe you could get your skull.
Yeah. Well, one thing that they failed to do, both of them failed to do, was that what they should have just done was come up with solutions given any possible scenario. Like, okay, we get to the crater and it looks like it's going to be a women's elimination. Okay, we'll go down so Gabby can get her skull. Looks like a men's elimination. Who are we putting in? That's all you do, right? Like you just have two game plans, a unified front, and also
So
we're at the point in the season, and like I was thinking this, I promise you, I was thinking this before it happened. I said to myself, it's obvious when it's going to be a women's elimination or a men's elimination. If it's a competition we've seen before this season, then it's just the opposite gender of what did it previously. Like the very first elimination we saw this season was that like hanging from the pole that was Ashley versus
yeah,
why am I blanking?
Natalie.
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 Thank you. And then when they saw it again, it was a men's. It was Jay versus Leroy. So you just know, okay, if it's something we've seen before, well then it's the opposite gender of what we did previously. That's how you know.
For sure.
It's
But
not
if
rocket
we
science.
like, we're not gonna like. I mean, we don't really. The deliberation was just weird. But
Yeah.
let's be honest, right? Gabby didn't really want to go in because it was
No.
hall brawl anyway. So I think that was a bigger deal as opposed to, you know, going in if it's hall brawl, if it's a men's elimination or not, or a women's elimination or not. Either way, she just didn't want to go in. And I think that was more so the decision as opposed to waiting to see what it was and would she feel confident in whatever the challenge was. No matter what it was, she just didn't want to go in at all. And then as we found out when it was hall brawl, she definitely did not want that. So I kind of understand it. Their biggest issue was we saw that they have no control. Like Devin thought he was in control of everything when really he was in control of nothing because they didn't even come close to getting the House vote to go the way that they wanted it to go. And it ends up being Amber M and Corey being the House vote. And the deliberation was weird. Amber M and Corey were just talking about how they want to go in. And Amber M was all confident that she's ready to go in and she's ready to get her skull, which is all very weird. And I thought it was strange. But the biggest takeaway was just that Devin and Gabby had no real say in what was going on. So they were in control, but not really. And that might have been the first time we've seen that this season.
Yeah, I've never understood why people are like, oh, well, so and so's in control, so we have to give them what they want. Because that's
Yeah,
not
not
really
at
how
all.
it works. The double agents don't have the power to compel you to do anything. There's a lot of other choices that people could have put in
Mhm.
instead of Corey and Amber M. I understand why people chose Corey and Amber M. Not only did they ask for it, but Amber M, I don't think has a ton of friends. Certainly, she and the Big Brother Alliance are at odds. I bet Corey behind the scenes said to a couple people like, "Hey man, I don't want Amber M to be my partner anymore.
Yeah.
Like, do me a solid." And there's a lot of people that I think would agree to do that
Yeah.
because Corey's got an excellent social game. And I mean,
Also,
the
I
alternative,
think it's just safe, right? Like you're
yeah.
not really picking a side. So it was an easy pick to pick those two.
Well, and you can't put in if you vote in Lolo and Nam, and they asked everyone to put them in so they could split up their partnership. The problem with that is then it puts Devin and Gabby in a position where they can basically hammer anyone with the prospect of going against an Olympian and the Beastmaster, right?
Exactly.
So then like Josh
Well,
and
you
Nani
knew
are
that
going
was
in
never
for
going to
sure.
happen. But
Yeah,
Lolo knew that was never going to happen, right? That's why she even tried to fake cry. So,
yeah,
I mean, that was all weird. Um, Josh gave a weird ass speech talking about how many friends he has in the house and he knows nobody's going to vote for him because he has so many friends in the house and he trusts them. And it's like, that's not why you're not getting voted in. And here's the part I didn't understand either, right? So let's skip ahead a bit to the actual the crater, right? So
Sure.
when it's announced that, like, is there anything else you wanted to jump in there with or no?
No, no. Go ahead.
So when we get to the crater, and obviously it's Corey and Amber M that get put in, right? So Josh and Nani are super mad because they're assuming that they're gonna get put in. And they're talking hella spicy, and I don't understand why. Because we just saw in the deliberation you were saying, "Oh, nobody wants to put me in, and that's good," and blah blah blah. Oh, but now your energy changes because you see that it's Amber M that's probably going in. And now you want to talk spicy about, oh, why didn't you put us in? I thought in the deliberation, Josh sat there and said, oh, but wait a second. Don't put me in. I have too many friends to vote me in. Oh, you sounded hella confident then that you didn't want to go in. But after you saw that it could be someone easy for your partner, which again, I understand is the game, right? Like you want to go in against some people and you don't want to go in against others. Cool. But not when we've seen people like Casey or even Lolo or even, Leroy, like whoever it is that just said, I'm going in against whoever. Right. So to see Josh like that, Josh and Nani like that, that was annoying to me. That was super lame. I was just like, get out of here. Like, I can't take you guys seriously. That was my opinion. I don't know. Um,
As I said earlier, the Big Brother Alliance, they don't actually want to win. They all want different things. What Josh wants is to be the most popular.
yeah.
That seriously, that's Josh's main motivation. He wants to be the cool kid at school.
Yeah.
And so that's why he's always so fixated on either, oh, I have too many friends in this house. No one's going to vote me in. Because, like, he's not worried about being voted in. He's worried about having friends.
Yeah.
And he doesn't like Devin because Devin bullies him. And so this is why he has, and I mean, he feels the same way about Wes too, right? Like
Mhm.
he's mad at them because they won't be his friend. Honestly, that's what it
Yeah,
boils down
no,
to.
you're totally right. You're totally
And
right.
Nani, he and Nani are very similar in that they both get themselves so worked up, and then if things don't go their way, they have a hard time changing gears or like going in a different direction. And Nani says for the first time ever, she was hyped up to go into an elimination, and then it didn't happen. And like neither of them know what to do with that energy that they build up when they like psych themselves up for something like this.
Well, here's the thing. No, sorry, go on, go on.
Well, I was going to ask you, obviously the best choice for Gabby would have been to put herself in, right?
Yeah.
What would have been the second best choice? Because I don't think putting in Amber B was the second best choice.
Well, the problem is, right? Here's a problem. I think she thought that her friend Amber M, what would be her best chance of winning? Right? And if you look at the other options, you're not going to put her in against Big T. So it would be putting her in against the other Amber. So I do think that was probably her best option.
I think the better choice is to put in Big T. And I'll tell you why.
But they probably would have gotten mad because they're friends, no?
But remember, Devin had promised CT, if I win, I will put you in.
Mhm.
So Devin can say, like, listen, man, there's frankly, there's only one other person in the house that Big T could beat in Hall Brawl, and that's Amber M.
Yeah.
CT against Corey in Hall Brawl. CT, come on. Like, this is your event.
Yeah.
And that way you can say, at least you can save face and say to CT, I did the best I could with the opportunity I was given. And also, if regardless of who wins, either Big T or Amber M, Gabby can take them at a later time. Like if you're really
Yeah,
set
that's
on
fair.
not going in.
That's fair. And, the point of Gabby not going in, I know she's going to get crushed, and she was crushing herself for not going in,
As
right? Like, I totally understand that. I totally
yeah.
do. But the one reason why I was okay with it was because she knows that she didn't want the smoke. If you listen to this podcast, one thing we say about Hall Brawl is you either want the contact or you don't. It's that simple. That's all it comes down to, Hall Brawl. And so if you know that you're not about that life, don't go in it. And you have the choice, don't go in. That to
Hmm.
me is a smart move. If you know that you would have went into that and looked like Amber M, because you've never hit anybody or like contact, like run into somebody like that, which isn't something that everybody has ever done in your life. Like, unless you've played tackle football, which not everybody has done, or you played rugby, which not everybody has done. Like, that's not a normal thing to run full speed into another human being. So if you're Gabby and you're like, I don't really want to go in Hall Brawl, I don't feel comfortable with that, even though it might be one of your last chances to go in, I understand why she didn't go in. And I'm not going to crush her for not wanting to go into Hall Brawl, right? Like, I get it. I understand it.
Um, it's funny. I'll give a play-by-play on my notes. I have, although Amber B is much taller, I don't think it's a slam dunk she'll win. And then I'm like, apparently this was Gabby's idea. I was like, oh wait, Amber
Yeah,
B played rugby. She's gonna win. And then
I forgot about that.
they had the because like they had the pre-game confessionals. And then Amber M is just like, well, like I guess I'll try my best. I'm like, oh, I don't like this energy
Yeah,
at
I
all.
forgot
Like
about
this is not gonna be good. My line of the episode goes to
Amber. Hold on,
Nam.
Amber M. I think the edit. Oh, sorry. I thought you were getting right to the end there, and I just wanted to say
No,
something
no.
about how bad it was. But go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say my line of the episode is Nam saying, "I'm rooting for Amber," which made
That was
me
well played.
that made me laugh. And I'm as someone who has to recap the show weekly, I'm glad that we're down to one Amber.
Yeah, which is fair. And Amber M, you could tell she had no idea what she was doing,
No, none.
right? Like, and I think the edit probably saved face for how bad it actually was, right? Like, they didn't make her look as bad as she actually did. And she still looked bad, but I bet you it was a whole lot worse. And I'd forgotten that Big Brother Amber played rugby. Totally forgot that. Didn't know that. Totally like disregarded that. So I had no idea what was going to happen, but it became apparent very quickly exactly what was going to happen. And, if you're Gabby watching that, that makes the move even worse because, as Devin stated, this was her idea. So
Hmm.
then how does this make sense if you know that Amber plays rugby or played rugby and you're putting her in against your own friend? Then she's not the second strongest person, or sorry, she's not the best person for your friend to go into an elimination against, right?
And also, like Gabby, I know you've got the hard eyes for Fessy, but the lines have been drawn. The Big Brother Alliance does not like your partner at all. You just gave one of them a gold skull, like on a silver platter.
Yeah.
That's what
So
again. That's why it's
maybe that was her plan though. Like, that's the
maybe.
only thing that makes sense. The only
But
thing that makes sense. Maybe the Big Brother Alliance, because of Fessy and because of Amber, who she just gave a thing to, she can try to smooth it over and be like, hey, I gave you guys this. We know what role Fessy's going to play in trying to save her too, right? Fessy's going to be like, oh, I need a partner and I want her to be my partner instead of Anissa going into the final. Like, we already know how that cookie's going to crumble.
mhm.
So we can see it, how it's going to play out. But again, should Gabby have gone in? Yes. But I understand why she didn't. Because if
I
you don't want that smoke, you're going to get hurt. Because the other like serious part that they tell you whenever you start playing football or you start playing whatever contact sport, they tell you if you're not doing that at full speed, that's how you get hurt. Like, if
yeah.
you're afraid to get hit or you're afraid, like you stop before someone's about to hit you, like that's how you get hurt. And so, yeah, it wouldn't have been a good look for her to go in if she's not down with the contact. So I get it. I totally get it.
I have to say, as a viewer, I was really disappointed. This
Yeah,
was the second week in a row where we had a really like embarrassingly bad elimination.
agreed.
I
Agreed.
like how CT put it. I don't think this is what the challenge gods had in mind when they created Hall Brawl. Like it was bad TV.
Agreed. Agreed. There's no other way to slice it up. That was horrible. That was actually horrible, horrible, horrible. The other thing is, right? The best idea might have been what Devin said when he was trying to convince her of what to do and saying, well, maybe we put Anissa in.
Yeah,
Because that way that might have gotten Gabby to be partners with Fessy.
yeah,
If Anissa loses, Fessy needs a partner.
yeah.
But
I
anyways,
I feel like there was a lot of better choices out there. I did like Devin's energy when they were deliberating between the two of them who to put in. He's like, let's get crazy. Like let's put in Cam and Kyle.
yeah, but
Like let's go.
he was going too far. Like he was going all
He
over the
was,
place and like,
but
you
I
know.
don't think in chess it's sort of like a common mistake where you have two potential like lines of moves that you can make.
Mhm.
So you'd be like, okay, I could move this piece or I could move that piece. And someone will like explore like 10 moves deep what'll happen if they move this piece. And they're like, oh, I don't like that outcome. So they'll just move the other piece.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
does that's not proper analysis. And I feel like Gabby and Devin didn't really think this through.
No, I got you. I got you.
What was your line of the episode though?
Oh, I have to find it. I had it highlighted in my notes. Um, my line of the episode was quote, the agent. So this was about the vote of who you're going to vote, the House vote, and who you're going to send in for the House vote. Okay. Quote, the agents I vote to compromise are Lolo and Nam because I hate this team. Said by Lolo Jones. Again, Lolo says, quote, the agents I vote to compromise are Lolo and Nam because I hate this team. Close quote. As she votes for her own team. That is my line of the episode to show just the level of dysfunction amongst Lolo Jones and her partner Nam.
Um, and who was your MVP? Who killed it for you this week?
See, this was a weird. This one is weird because if you look at how the challenge actually played out, right? Devin and Gabby win, but they don't actually do anything to help either of them, right? Devin just puts a way bigger target on his back, and Gabby doesn't get herself a skull. In fact, she gets her friend eliminated and gets her frenemy a skull. So they didn't really play the game that well. So, I mean, if I'm looking at it, do I give it to Amber then? Or I might say the LVP of the episode. I might go with an LVP of this episode and say that it is Devin. The power went to Devin's head. He is the LVP of this episode because, again, something that we didn't do this week, but my guy was doing too much. And there is no need for all of the extracurriculars Devin was on and realizing that it's cool that you won the challenge, bro, but always know the power comes with the numbers in the house. And if you don't have the numbers in the house, you don't really have the power, bro. And he didn't do quick maths this week to realize that he did not have the power. Devin, pains me to say it, my dude, but you were right. You're shooting 0%. You are the LVP this week.
I'm also naming an LVP, but I'm going with Lolo,
Okay.
who is just embarrassing herself, like on a daily basis. I don't know if she ever plans on coming back on the challenge, but I am shocked and yet not surprised at her absolute lack of mental toughness. I mean, no one understands what she's talking about. she is perpetually angry at Nam, who everyone in the house, everyone else in the house likes. Like, there's no one that's saying anything bad about Nam. He seems like a really great partner in that, like, there's other partners, like guys that just shout at their female partners that are misogynists, that are assholes, that are getting in trouble, right?
Yeah.
Like, look at this episode. Would you rather have Nam as an episode as your partner or Devin? Like, I love Devin, but Nam's not getting you into trouble like Devin.
No, you're totally right.
So Lolo, who on paper as an Olympian should have huge advantages, she is just crumbling under pressure that is all coming from within.
Agreed. It's not
Like,
a good look at all.
it's not a good look. I'm like reading the tea leaves of the, like, on the next episode of, it looks like she's gonna quit. I mean, again, who's to say? But it looks like she's quitting the next episode. Like, come on, Lolo. Like, this is pathetic.
And you know she's not going to do it quietly, and she's going to make it all about everyone's afraid of her and not even letting her play the game and blah blah. And it's like, yeah, whatever, leave then. Cool.
And low key, like, one of the things that I don't know has come across is she's one of the older people in the house, right? Like, she's in her early 30s. Most of them are in their 20s. Obviously, Jarrell and CT and Wes are not. Smashley is in her early 30s. But, like, most of them are mid to late 20s, right? So she should, in theory, be more mature than these people, but she's not at all.
Yeah. No, I agree.
So, Lolo, for me, you're the LVP. Where can the good people find you on social media?
You can find me on Twitter at Shell Alexander, on Instagram at Sheldon Alexander, on Twitch, On Blast Podcast, and also the YouTube, Sheldon Alexander. Like and subscribe in all those places. Find all the content that we're dishing out. Obviously, we still got a lot of basketball stuff out here. And you know what's interesting? And I didn't mention this earlier, and I really should have. But the funny way that things connect, because I've had people who are challenge fans who listen to the podcast because of the challenge, but then they're also fans of basketball. So when the Raptors have played, so earlier on, and I should have looked up the name to give her a proper shout out, but the Raptors played the Kings, and one of our challenge fans was a Kings fan as well. They live from Sacramento. And so messaged me to, like, right after the Raptors played the Kings, because we were going back and forth, and I said I had Kings rookie Tyrese Halliburton on my fantasy team. So we were talking about that, and I was just like, I love how the internet works sometimes, like the internet for good, right? Like, we know all the negative sides of the internet. We get it, and I understand it. Jessica, shouts to Jessica. But do you know what I'm saying? Like, we know the negative side of the internet and all that, but I find that really cool that someone who, you know, comes to us because of, we both love the challenge and we talk about the challenge, but then because of basketball in a completely random, like, Raptors Sacramento Kings game. You know what I mean? Like, that's a corner of the internet right there. That's only going to attach a few people. Kings basketball, Raptors basketball, the challenge. That is the internet in a nutshell. And I love it. I love it.
That's pretty great. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at jchidleyhill. I continue to write about things having to do with COVID-19 in Ontario. So if that's not your jam, I totally understand. I will not be offended if you need a break from that. But also, you know, sometimes I tweet about, like, 15-year-old action movies. So you never know what you're going to get.
I was like, where are you going with this here?
That's fair. That's a fair question. 15-year-old action movies. Not 15-year-old anything else. 15-year-old
or maybe action movies that came out 25 years ago. Like, you should watch the original Bad Boys to bring this all full circle instead of Bad Boys 2. Bad Boys 1 will always be a classic.
You know what I watched last night? Friday, which I also had never watched. I'm really Crossing some
Hey.
stuff off my list.
We got the time these days. I realized everyone was talking about it because of Shooter McGavin on Twitter or whatever. I'm like, I've never seen Happy Gilmore. And everyone's like, what? You've never seen Happy Gilmore? I'm like, no, not really a golf guy. And Adam Sandler, nah. But I get it. No, I understand. Yes, it's one of those movies. Yeah, I get it.
It's also like a big thing in my life because friend of the podcast, Adam Jameson, my best friend, he looks like Shooter McGavin. So we sometimes call him Shooter. So we were chirping him all day during the 25th anniversary of Happy Gilmore. Shooter. So
fair enough.
So
maybe I'll watch that this weekend. Weekend and report back.
If you do, let me know. I will watch it at the same time. We can do a watch along together.
Our movie list this week: Obsessed, Bad Boys 1 and 2, Happy Gilmore, and of course, The Challenge.
And Friday. Don't forget Friday.
And Friday. My bad.
Friday was excellent. I feel bad that we spoke so much about Bad Boys 2 when I could have been talking about Friday, which I loved every second of. And it wasn't even hot. So
like people never understood, because I remember I would say at work like a long time ago, like I would say, oh, he deboed him. Like talking about a guy like dunked on someone or like bullied him to the basket, be like, oh, he deboed him. And someone's like, I remember at work one time, someone's like, did you just say deboed? And I was like, yeah, like you don't. And then they thought about it. It's like, oh, I like that. That actually makes a lot of sense.
It works.
Yeah, it definitely works.
Until next week, this was You Killed It.
We went from super short to super long. You killed it.
On blast.